Hey guys, so I wanted to do this video. This is my first video that I'm making. If you've stumbled upon this, you've either been a Jehovah's Witness, you are a Jehovah's Witness, or you're just curious about them. So what I want to do is I want to give you guys my experience of how I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness and what I went through and everything. So basically it just starts out with my mom and my dad. My dad was not a witness when he met my mom. I know they met a few times. My mom was, though, and she was disfellowshipped when they officially got together. So I came along, so I guess you could say I was kind of like born into it, I guess. And my parents got married about a month or so after I was born, and my mom wanted to get reinstated. She was disfellowshipped for a while, and she told my dad that, and I quote, she says, "I'm taking the baby to the meetings with me, whether you like it or not." And I guess at that point, my dad was like, well, I want to see what it's about for myself. So that's where my story starts. So as a Jehovah's Witness child, you're kind of like limited to like a lot of things. So growing up, I wasn't able to, have friends with worldly people, and that would have been anybody that was like never a Jehovah's Witness or anything. All of my friends, the little bit of friends that I had, were Jehovah's Witnesses, and that was it. That's as far as it got. So because of that, again, as a Jehovah's Witness, you're taught that anyone that's not a witness, they're worldly, they're bad association. 1 Corinthians 15:33 was instilled in my head. Bad association spoils you for habit. So as a kid at that time, that's what we all had to memorize, 1 Corinthians 15:33. So again, growing up, it was kind of harder for me to make friends that were in school, friends that were in my dance class. I was never able to hang out with them or anything. Now, as far as my family goes, from what I can remember, my parents are still in, my sister's kind of back and forth, her husband's kind of back and forth. I have a 10-year-old brother who's, unfortunately being raised in this. My grandmother, my uncle's an elder, his wife, their son, my aunt. I remember when I was younger, my aunt was disfellowshipped, and what I can remember even prior to that was my aunt and my cousins, they were always going to the meetings faithfully, and then I just remember that it all stopped. And come to find out, like I said, my aunt was disfellowshipped, and I remember going to her house and not being able to speak to her. And I just remembered the sad look that she had on her face for years, and it always bothered me. I always wanted to talk to my aunt, but I was never able to. So as I got older, I understood why I wasn't able to, like I said, because she was disfellowshipped. So, I tried to talk to her as a child then, to kind of get her to come back, indoctrination, but to get her to come back just so I can talk to my aunt again. So, my uncle is an elder. They don't live in the same state, so I don't know where they are as far as their mind goes, but my initial family, the last couple years that I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, we were in the American Sign Language field. So my parents, they were going through some things at the time, and they thought that in order to make their marriage better, that they would get more involved with pioneering and, getting introduced to a foreign language field. So that's why we got involved with sign language in the first place. I was in an online school, and I remember one of the kids there who was also Jehovah's Witness. That's what his parents were doing. So I think that's kind of like what sparked the idea with my family. So we got involved with that. There's just so much that happened to me as a child. I mean, I remember wanting to play sports. I remember wanting to play an instrument, and I was never able to do that. And I'm not like bashing or anything. I'm not speaking negatively. I'm just speaking from my experience growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. I remember in my congregation, there wasn't like a lot of kids, but what happened was they ended up combining our congregations into like one Kingdom Hall. So there was about like 4 congregations total in one hall, and we had like 2 separate auditoriums. And I remember, again, since you can't have friends outside the organization, I remember going to the other congregation to kind of make friends with the kids there. And it wasn't like, if you grow up as a Jehovah's Witness, you know that certain congregations, if not all of them, they have their cliques. So with me trying to make more friends with the other younger people in the other congregations, it just didn't go well. You know, everyone has their own clique. They stick with their clique. They don't really allow any like outsiders. So I was kind of like the outsider at that point. But I mean, I just stuck with the friends that I had, and I think that was the other problem with me in making friends. I mean, I always like talking to people. I never minded talking to anybody, but again, because of the indoctrination, I think that's the hard part about it. I just want to fix my camera. But anyways, so like I said, we got into the American Sign Language, and I remember we took the classes and everything. Our congregation had the class for it, and I remember trying to make friends there, and it was just so. Again, you have your cliques. You have your people that are like really close to like the presiding overseer and, you know, the servants. You know, they were like their own clique, and no one really wasn't like allowed into it. And so I mean that was tough. Fast forward, you know, because of my experience growing up not being able to make friends, I think what sparked me even leaving, I'm just trying to give you guys like a background. What even sparked me leaving was the fact that I couldn't have friends outside. So I remember as a teenager, my family, we grew up going to the local skating rink, and my husband's actually listening, so I'm sure he's probably going to laugh about this, but I remember going to the skating rink. Now again, when you're at least a female and like you're around a worldly guy, it's kind of like awkward, and I don't know if it's like a subconscious thing where you're kind of like stuck up a little bit. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I remember going to the rink for the first time in years, and I remember going to the skate room to get my skates, and my husband, you know, this is before we were talking, my husband was back there, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want this. So over time, I mean, we started going, and again, my friends are limited, so who else am I going to talk to? And I mean, over time, you know, my husband, this is before we even dated and everything, my husband and I, we started talking, we became friends, you know, we were like cool and everything. And I remember growing up, and my parents would just shut it down completely, again, because he's worldly. And so that was hard. I mean, if you've grown up as a witness, you know, once again, anybody that's not a witness is bad association. You shouldn't hang out with them. Bad associations spoil useful habits. Or don't be having dealings with the stupid ones, or it's like something stupid like that. I don't even remember. And I remember, again, you know, being told, well, I can't hang out with this person. I remember, like, as time went on, and when my husband and I became friends, you know, we would text here and there, and that's fine. And I remember I was at the store with my parents, and I remember asking my dad, hey, Tyler, my husband, hey, Tyler wants to hang out. Can I go over to his house? And what does my dad say? No. Mm-mm. And so I would ask him, I'm like, okay, well, even if his dad is there, no, don't think so. So that didn't go well. And I think over time, I mean, my parents had like this crazy perception of anybody that's like not a witness, especially my husband at the time. They had like a crazy perception. And I just remember getting in trouble constantly over and over and over just for texting. I remember playing at the rink, and my husband, again, before we were even dating, he took my phone, hid it, we're playing around. I get in trouble for it. So, I mean, I don't know if any of you can relate. I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of a backstory. You know, later on down the road, it got to be a bit much. very restrictive, was never allowed to hang out with anybody. So it came down to it where I was going to take things into my own hands, and I made arrangements to see my friends anyway. So after that, I mean, my parents found out, they got upset, did not go well, and I decided to move out. I wanted to wait until after I graduated high school. So graduate high school first, wait till I'm 18 years old, and then I'm out. And that's what happened. So fast forward to even now, what woke me up was my sister had gotten married, and I found out, and there's actually like so much more to the story, and I don't want to like, say too much, but my sister had got married, and I remember this was last year, but probably around this time last year, I found out that her husband was researching the organization. So because of that, prior to that, I knew a little bit of things here and there, but it didn't really click. And I would go back and forth between going to meetings, not going, go back to the meetings again. I started going to church, and then I would stop just because I still had that indoctrination. So I thought what they had was the truth. I would go back and forth. So to hear that my brother-in-law was researching pretty much like sparked me to do the research for myself. And I think the first thing I found was the Australia Commission. That was the very first thing I found. My hair is like sticking out there. But like I said, I found the Australia Commission, and I remember watching the video, and I remember what's his name, Jeffrey Jackson. I remember him talking about how if they shun inactive people, and I remember he said no. And I was on the phone with my mother about it, and I'm like, listen, like, they do shun inactive people. And she's like, no, they don't. They don't do that. And I'm like, I don't understand. There's been people in my congregation that were inactive and they were shunned. So to hear this, I'm just like, okay, that's not right. So I continued researching, and it was just everything came out. 75, the lying, the abuse, the false. It was like everything came out at one time. And I told myself, I'm like, okay, well, if all this is happening, the abuse of the children, which, I mean, this is supposed to be God's organization. It's supposed to be holy. It's supposed to be something good. All this is happening. There's no way. There's no way that this is God's organization. And then it came down to that I started looking in my Bible, and I would reference what the Bible said, and I would go back to what the New World Translation said, and it was completely different. So I'm like, this confirms there's no way. So, I mean, some of you guys that are watching the video, I mean, I understand that some of you may be atheists, and that's fine. But because of my experience, growing up and knowing what I know now, it gave me faith to put my faith in Christ. So that's what I did. And for years, I would, I would ask to be shown what the truth was. I was always asking. Even if I wasn't going to the meetings anymore, even if I wasn't going to church at all, I was always asking, just unsure of what the truth was. And now that everything came out, I'm just like, that's it. I have kids myself, and, the child abuse, I can't put them at risk for them to be abused. I can't do that. And so in order to prevent that, I can't go anymore. Now, as of right now, I'm the only one out. The majority of my family on, like immediate family, my mother's side. Everyone else, I don't really talk to that much, my dad's side. But my mom's side, my immediate family, they are still in. And they are still indoctrinated. I mean, I'm hoping that I can get them out. It's a struggle. It's stressful. It's frustrating. I'm not mad at them or anything. I'm not mad at how I was raised, but it's upsetting to know why they did it and where did it come from. It came from the governing body. They're the ones that approve everything. So to see a lot of these XJWs out there warning everybody, it kind of gives me that like fire almost to want to do the same. So that's why I'm making this video. I mean, at some point I'm going to want to, share more, just certain things here and there that I have found that hopefully that'll help you guys. But like I said, my experience as a Jehovah's Witness, I mean, it's tough. It really is tough. You know, you try to talk to your family and they have that mental wall. So, you know, I'm hoping that one day that they will wake up to what's going on. I mean, my sister, my parents, they're aware of a lot of things, but they're still, and I'm trying to figure like how I want to put it without being, you know, disrespectful or anything, but they're aware, but they still continue to defend the organization. And I honestly think it has everything to do with the indoctrination process. And I mean, there's nothing that, I mean, it's hard to get them out, and I'm thankful to see other people that are doing that. But my family, it's probably going to be a struggle. It's probably going to be a struggle. But like I said, my husband and I, after everything that happened with us, you know, my husband and I, we've been married for a couple years now. So, you know, again, I have children. We're doing great. You know, you don't have to be in the organization to have a good life. A lot of people that I know are stressed. They have anxiety. There's a lot of things going on with their families, with them being in the organization. And I just want you guys to know there is freedom out there, but you have to be able to wake up. You really have to wake up. There's so much stuff out there that's being hidden. You guys don't know. And it's not the fact that we hate Jehovah's Witnesses, because we don't. You know, those of us that have been there, we don't hate them. We just hate what's been done to them and what's been done to us. So that's why we have this activism thing going. There's so much out there. There's so much to it. So like I said, what I'm going to do is over time I'm going to be recording some more, but I just want to give you guys an introduction to who I am, and we'll see where this goes. So, see ya.